Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, I'm Intan Ashlihati. I'm from Affirmative Team.
Hello, I'm Syarifah Sefianti. I'm from the opposition team.
All right, we will do a debate performance with the motion to pass a political general knowledge test in order to vote. So without any further addition,
Let's start begin.
All right. This is the Prime Minister of this House, and this House would require individuals to pass a political general knowledge test in order to vote. First thing first, we all should know what is the political knowledge test, and basically, we could interpret it as a form of examination that consists of questions regarding to the basic political system. For example, why we should vote and how vote affects the country and etc. Along with various information of a certain candidate's campaign. The test will give two results. If a person doesn't fail, he or she exactly passes. Someone who failed at the test will not be allowed to give his or her vote, even that he or she is a taxpayer. And then I will explain the context. The context here that I bring is related with the democracy system of our country. Geographical limitations should not be necessary since we are debating in the realm of political system idea, not the practice for starters. The main element of democracy is the people's power to make a change favoring majorities' benefits, but not dismissing minorities' needs. The reason would lie on how some people are ignorant, irrational, and uninformed. Would it simply like they have no idea what their power is capable of? Now, this is my arguments. First, to raise awareness in the problematic status quo. In the status quo, here is the problematic voters. First, someone pays them to vote for a candidate. Second, they vote because they think the candidate is as good as what they see on the television or media without even knowing of the candidate's policy, value, their past political career, and etc. And third, they are often to become the victim of propagandas. And the current voter condition is unfit because not only does this affect the result of the voting, but it also harms the value of participation. Through this proposal, I could at least reduce the harm by having the test. It will enforce the election system by encouraging people to think and do further research of who they are going to vote for. Also, it will serve as a reminder or perhaps an enlightenment of how important and powerful is their vote. The awareness to vote will rise. Then, knowing that people were paid to vote for a certain candidate has indicated that the democratic election process is jeopardized because the number of people who would trade off their vote for money is a lot, especially when poverty is considered to be a major issue in the nation. The poor people were exploited to fulfill one party's interests. What is worse is that when there are more parties involved in exploiting the poor, the battle shifts from glorifying political view to money. Whoever has the most money has the highest chance to win the battle. And later, that it somewhat sounds rhetoric, there will be a motivation for candidates that win the election to do corruption, for they want to recover the money spent on buying voters. And that is bad, and we have to mitigate it by raising the participation rate together with voters' awareness. That's my first argument. Then the second argument is, I think, to enforce the current democratic election process. The test is the only way to measure one's merit, and do not worry, it is not who is getting the highest score. It is not for a competition or a ranking purpose. This is just an additional procedure to ensure the safeness from bad practice of democracy. A simple analogy would be, why do we have to have a driving license? It is fairly simple. Government may doubt your driving ability because one's definition of being able to drive might be different from one to other people. The differences in the parameter might contribute to accidents. Thus, a standardization procedure of government's definition is necessary in order to protect the civilians. The test, which is results oriented, is a better approach than today's effort in raising awareness. For example, like socialization. It is better because there is a deterrence effects in it for people to take it seriously. Otherwise, um, people might lose their right to vote temporarily until they manage to pass the exam. Then the next question would be, why is it important for people to vote? Well, because our vote represents hope and a positive change in our life. Then let's jump to the third argument. We have to ensure that you're voting yourself. Means that too often have we been lied or manipulated by the media or the political campaign. Such a phenomenon does not exclusively happen on the financially poor people. Everyone has equal change to be exposed to the false information. The proposal here is not to doubt someone's rationality or decision making ability, but rather to reduce the element of regret. How often do we heard our surroundings saying that they regret choosing the candidate they choose? And it is sounds familiar, right? Yes, it is. It is due to the fact of how dynamic change is affecting our life that we later become dismissive toward the political situation, which later motivates us to trusting other people's decision. Hence, you're living the herd behavior. The regret sensation will occur when a certain policy that is against your belief is being implemented and hurt certain group. You thought that you could prevent it in the past, yet you did not. And basically, people should give their vote as their own desire. The desire appear from them are based on their mind and heart. And when citizens are given the right to vote, it means that they cannot just vote as fulfilling their obligation. They need knowledge, they need consideration, in which the final result uh, will will prove whether they will become more welfare or not is determined of it. Uh, so I'm, as a prime minister of this house, encourage the government to requiring individuals to pass political knowledge tests in order to vote. Thank you.
All right. Um, the opposition team will preview that uh, whether someone chooses or not, it is their right, even if they do not have basic political knowledge. The right to vote gives them a sense of security that they still have a role or power in society. Um, was more when you vote for someone, even if you don't know the candidate's background. It doesn't necessarily indicate that you have made a bad choice, because the most important thing is that you have exercised your privilege in choosing whomever candidate you want. Not everyone comes from the same background. Moreover, some people can live up to the government's expectation, like the poor. They may have the intention of donation their vote. Um, However, with the obstacles they experience, limited disappoint themselves as because they live a different life from prospective families. When their motives are there but their access is denied, it will further weaken the idea of voting and discourage people from voting because the government does not believe in their decision. Thus, the notion of participation does not work well because APK and selective government only favors a certain group of people. When that happens, you can predict an unintended outcome, namely a loss of confidence. Let me come to my first argument, right? First of all, I would like to point out the main reason why everyone is given the only vote is simple. To show that everyone is the same with the some political power. Once you limit who can and cannot vote, the lower classes are bound to be at a disadvantage because they are the ones receiving the lesser education and most likely will not be given the right to vote. Then the second argument that the main thing is they will be considered inferior or worse, toxic to the nation because they have an irrational and incapable nature in the beginning. Their social position was already at a disadvantage due to lower financial strength, and now their burden will increase as people place their hopes on their test performance. Social inequality will get worse, and we all know what might happen when the level of suffering from inequality exceeds their conscience. Then the third argument, that is when you talk about a test, it is as a mean of measuring one's knowledge, but does knowledge equal fair election result? In every election, there is always more than one candidate, each with different values and plans. Nothing is absolutely right or wrong. Everything is subject to one's expectation, is accepting the ideal world. Therefore, if a certain candidate does things that are contrary to his promise, then it is not the fault for those who are at the fault. Then, in fact, the blame should be on the entire system itself for allowing a hypocrite to take a change on the election. Um, why doesn't the government conduct further candidate screening? Sometimes we are just too busy living life, fulfilling responsibilities that we then become stupid. This ignorance is based on the fact that we trust our political system to at least carry out a screening process or screening of unfit candidates so that we don't make fatal choices, right? From the explanation about voting does not need a political knowledge test, and in the end voters will choose according to their conscience. It is the right of opinion as a citizen. The right of opinion should not be limited, right? If there is such um, is such a test, the government indirectly limits the votes of citizens to elect representatives of the people. Thank you.